Within the AZ-104 Azure Administrator Certification path, understanding how to move a virtual machine, VM, to another resource group, subscription, or region is crucial for managing shifting organizational requirements. As part of Unit 3, Deploy and Manage Azure Compute Resources, this topic builds on prior coverage of Azure Resource Manager, ARM, templates, bicep files, and resource deployments. These foundational elements frame the approach to resource manipulation and deployment in Azure. This slide introduces the key concepts behind relocating VMs for resource organization, subscription consolidation, or geographic compliance. By revisiting the basics of ARM's declarative model, we can appreciate how Azure's infrastructure transitions remain consistent. In the following slides, we will explore not only the process, but also how to ensure that dependencies, data disks, and configuration remain intact across moves. Each method involves nuanced considerations, such as verifying quotas, addressing region-specific features, and ensuring minimal downtime. In earlier topics, we explored how ARM templates and bicep files facilitate the creation and management of Azure resources in a declarative manner. These tools describe infrastructure in code, enabling consistent deployments across multiple environments. When moving VMs, it is essential to recall how resource dependencies are encoded in these templates. For instance, a VM typically depends on a virtual network interface, and managed disks. Understanding these linked elements helps prevent disruptions during relocation. Furthermore, Azure Disk Encryption or specialized configurations may introduce additional layers of complexity. Reviewing these insights sets the stage for effectively repositioning VMs to align with shifting organizational or geographic needs. We should also highlight that the process is not merely a direct cut and paste. Instead, it involves verifying that regions support the same VM sizes, storage replication, and networking features. These technical considerations underscore the importance of comprehensive planning before launching any migration process. Resource groups in Azure serve as logical containers for related resources, making them an integral part of any move operation. When relocating a virtual machine to a different resource group, administrators can benefit from improved organization, cost tracking, or governance policies. For example, shifting a VM from a development group to a production group can streamline cost allocations and role-based access control, RBAC. However, this move requires awareness of dependencies that might cross resource group boundaries. For instance, the VM might rely on a specific virtual network or storage account that resides in a separate group. Ensuring that these dependencies remain intact is crucial to avert service interruptions. Azure's built-in mechanisms, such as the resource move feature, aim to simplify the process. Yet, in certain scenarios, re-establishing links to newly created or existing resources could be necessary. Proper assessment of these relationships ensures a smooth transition and maintains workload availability. Organizations often maintain multiple Azure subscriptions to isolate billing or adhere to specific compliance requirements. Moving a virtual machine across subscriptions can help consolidate resources or reassign budgetary responsibilities. To achieve this, administrators may rely on the Azure Portal, Azure PowerShell, or Azure CLI. The process involves selecting the VM and associated resources, verifying compatibility in the destination subscription, and then initiating the move operation. During this step, any encryption keys, managed identities, or policies tied to the VM must be reviewed to ensure they remain valid. If subscription level settings differ markedly, additional configuration may be necessary. When completed, the resources typically preserve their original configurations, including IP addresses and disk attachments, though IP address changes may occur if the virtual network changes. As a best practice, verifying that cost management strategies and role assignments remain accurate post-move will help keep the environment consistent and secure in its new subscription. Regional moves within Azure can be driven by several factors, including reducing latency for end users, complying with data sovereignty laws, or simply restructuring an organization's cloud footprint. For instance, If a business expands to a new geographical market, placing its virtual machines in a closer Azure region could enhance application performance. Alternatively, merges or acquisitions may require integrating services in specific data centers to streamline support. In these cases, administrators must plan carefully, as cross-region movements are more complex than shifting resource groups or subscriptions within the same region. Often, the desired region might have different availability zone configurations, VM size availability, or networking constraints. Additionally, asynchronous data replication or site recovery solutions might need reconfiguration to ensure business continuity. Ultimately, region moves should be driven by a thorough cost-benefit analysis, factoring in bandwidth usage, potential downtime, and the technical requirements needed to maintain service levels throughout the process. Before executing a cross-region VM move, several preparations must be completed. First, administrators should validate that the destination region supports the required VM size, disk types, and networking configurations. Azure's region availability matrices can provide guidance on these capabilities. Second, consider how the move affects related resources. If the VM relies on managed disks, confirm that replication or storage tiers are available in the target location. Virtual networks, public IP addresses, and load balancers may also require equivalent setups. Third, check service limits or quotas in the destination region to ensure capacity for the move. Resource locks or policies must be reviewed and removed if necessary. Additionally, compliance or data residency regulations might mandate a certain flow or usage of encryption. Taking these steps early helps avoid roadblocks midway through the move. By performing a comprehensive pre-move audit, organizations can mitigate risk and preserve business continuity during the transition. Azure offers several approaches to move a virtual machine between regions, each suited to different use cases. One method involves using Azure Site Recovery, ASR, which replicates the VM to a secondary region and then initiates a failover. This technique can minimize downtime, but also requires additional setup and synchronization steps. Another approach is to create a snapshot of the managed disk and copy it to the destination region, then provision a new VM from that disk. Although this method might be simpler, it typically entails downtime while the disk is being transferred. PowerShell scripts or Azure CLI commands can automate these operations for scale or repeated usage. In all scenarios, administrators must confirm licensing compatibility and encryption key accessibility in the target region. Selecting the best approach often hinges on your organization's tolerance for downtime, as well as its governance and compliance frameworks. To demonstrate a region move, consider a scenario where you duplicate a production VM into a newly opened Azure region. First, enable Azure Site Recovery on the source VM, specifying the target region and appropriate storage account for replication. Next, allow the replica to synchronize, ensuring data consistency. Once replication is complete, perform a planned failover to the new region. Azure orchestrates the transition while retaining network configuration and disk attachments. After verifying functionality, commit the failover to finalize the move. At this point, you can remove the replication settings or keep them for future resilience. This process demonstrates how to ensure minimal downtime by gradually shifting services to the new location. Equally important is updating references in DNS, load balancers, or application configurations that rely on the VM's new endpoint. By following these steps, critical workloads remain accessible while extending your infrastructure's geographic reach. While moving VMs can address strategic objectives, potential challenges must not be overlooked. One common issue involves network configuration misalignment. If the target region or resource group lacks an identical virtual network setup, the VM might lose connectivity. Another risk arises from failing to update references in dependent services. For example, if a web application references the original IP address, traffic routing may break after the move. Additionally, downtime can be longer than anticipated if replication or snapshot exports are slow due to large disk sizes. Lack of adequate capacity in the target region may also result in provisioning failures. licensing discrepancies, or encryption key management across subscriptions and regions can further complicate the process. To mitigate these risks, thorough planning combined with robust testing strategies, such as pilot migrations or replicating a smaller test environment first, enables administrators to detect bottlenecks and refine the approach before performing full-scale moves. Azure provides multiple tools to implement VM moves. The Azure portal offers a graphical interface, guiding users through a series of prompts for resource selection and validation. For administrators who prefer automation or need repetitive tasks, Azure PowerShell and Azure CLI provide command-based workflows. For instance, the Move AZ resource PowerShell commandlet can facilitate resource moves between resource groups or subscriptions, though region transfers often require additional commands or advanced strategies, like Azure Site Recovery. Additionally, third-party tools can integrate with Azure's APIs to orchestrate more complex relocations. These might incorporate pipeline-based scripts that tie into existing CI/CD processes, ensuring that VM moves align with broader deployment practices. Ultimately, the choice of tool depends on organizational standards, the scale of the move, and the complexity of the environment. Each method furnishes logs and diagnostic outputs that help administrators track progress and troubleshoot any issues that arise along the way. After relocating a virtual machine, it is essential to validate that all services function as expected. Begin by confirming that the VM boots correctly in its new environment, verifying OS-level logs and performance metrics. Next, ensure that networking components, such as public IP addresses or load balancers, remain properly aligned. Testing connectivity with tools like Ping or Traceroute can uncover potential routing issues. If the VM is part of a larger application stack, confirm database connections, storage accessibility, and any dependent services remain operational. In addition, examine Azure Monitor logs to spot anomalies like unexpected resource usage spikes or latency changes. Confirm that role assignments and RBAC policies still match organizational security requirements. Finally, check billing and cost details to ensure that the VM's usage data is being captured under the correct subscription and resource group. Thorough validation prevents lingering misconfigurations and solidifies a successful migration. To optimize the process of moving virtual machines, it is advisable to establish clear practices. First, maintain consistent naming conventions and tagging strategies for all Azure resources. This simplifies resource discovery and management during and after the move. Second, ensure alignment with governance frameworks by reviewing resource locks, policies, and role assignments prior to initiating migrations. Periodic audits of these settings reduce unexpected roadblocks. Third, implement a comprehensive monitoring strategy with Azure Monitor or third-party tools to gauge performance metrics before and after the move. Such data can reveal the impact of the transition on latency or infrastructure loads. Fourth, if downtime is a concern, explore high-availability solutions like Azure Site Recovery or load balancing across multiple regions. Finally, create robust rollback procedures. For instance, snapshot-based backups or ASR failback options can be a safeguard if unforeseen issues arise. Following these practices positions the organization for smoother, more resilient VM relocations. Consider an e-commerce company that experiences rapid traffic growth in a new region. After analyzing user metrics, they opt to move their primary web server VM closer to local customers to reduce latency. This infrastructure resides in a resource group containing the VM, a managed disk, a public IP address, and an application gateway. To facilitate a seamless transition, they utilize Azure Site Recovery for replication to the target region. Once synchronization completes, a planned failover ensures minimal downtime. The team then updates DNS records and load balancer rules to direct incoming requests to the relocated VM. Parallel tests confirm that customers receive improved response times, benefiting their overall experience. Throughout the move, the administrators track resource usage via Azure Monitor, ensuring that new region thresholds are not exceeded. This real-world example underscores how a well-planned relocation can enhance application performance while preserving operational continuity and security controls. As organizations grow, certain compliance or business continuity measures might shape future resource moves. For instance, shifting VMs to specific sovereign regions, e.g., China or Germany, may entail specialized governance. In situations demanding multi-cloud or hybrid architectures, additional steps become necessary to maintain consistent security and performance profiles. Furthermore, robust documentation of each move, including validated backups and test results, is essential for addressing audit or rollback scenarios. By anticipating these considerations, enterprises can advance confidently along their Azure transformation journey.